May I please ask you all to settle down? Do settle down. The niceties, the hellos this morning, save it for after the session. We are ready to get into our first session, and let me introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, to our opening session on day 2 of the India Today conclave. Global GPS, War, Markets, Power Shifts, and India's New Voice in the World. This session is brought to you by Radhiko Khaitan. To take it from here and to introduce you to our speaker this morning, I want to hand it over to our session's moderator, Rahul Kanwar, News Director, TVTN, and Managing Editor, Special Online Projects, Executive Director, Business Today.
Hello and welcome. In diplomatic circles, the success of a summit is often defined by the outcome, which is usually outlined in a joint communique. India is working incredibly hard at this moment to ensure the success of its G20 presidency. But this is also at a time when the world is engulfed in a massive geopolitical crisis. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine makes it very difficult to get G20 countries to agree on a common language and framework. In many ways, this is a diplomatic nightmare. If this was cricket, think of it as having to bat on the pitch of Indore. The ball is turning so much that every batsman is having to struggle. Our special guest this morning is considered by many as the finest diplomatic mind in India of his generation. But he's batted up on a nightmare of a G20 pitch. How does he intend to bat, and what kind of strokes does he intend to hit? Ladies and gentlemen, at the India Today conclave, join me in welcoming to the 20th year of the conclave, India's super sharp foreign minister, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar. Can we have a warm round of applause, please? Dr. Jaishankar, I want to start by asking you about how the Russia-Ukraine conflict seems to be posing the biggest challenge to India's presidency as the G20. How are you trying to overcome this global geopolitical conflict, which seems to be tearing apart any plan you may have to show the G20 and India's presidency as a massive success? How are you batting on this dangerous pitch?
First of all, Rahul, let me say it's a great pleasure to be back. At Indore, first you got to manage the curator, okay, to make sure that you don't have that much turn in the pitch that early. I think we did a decent job in 2 meetings so far, the finance ministers meeting and the foreign ministers meeting. How do we manage? To me, it's not just a question of managing the big geopolitical divide right now. It's a question of getting the G20 to go back to its original mandate. The G20 was invented to look at global development, to look at global growth, to address challenges to it. And what we saw last year was that that entire agenda got sidetracked by the Ukraine conflict and the debates that accompanied it. It was a particular concern for us because the consequences of the Ukraine conflict have actually aggravated what is already a very distressed global situation. You had the COVID, you had even pre-COVID, you had issues of debt which were increasing. So the energy the energy spike, the food shortages, the fertilizer problems. These are actually big concerns of much of the world. But when you looked at the G20 for the last year, these concerns were peripheral.